Dahlia Serax, FaceTime video.
Hello.
Hello.
My town account got locked because I couldn't remember the password, so I had to create another account. Hi, Tom.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Tom.
Good evening.
Look. Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right.
Public.
Yes, welcome. Thank you. So, Adam, you good? And Dahlia, you good?
Yes, we're good to start.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone. We'll call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. I'll start with an introduction of our board members. We have Tom Hickey present tonight, Bob Seward present, John Conway present,
Hello.
Matt Ostagai present via cell phone. Scott Stravell is absent and we have one vacancy. So just for the math, we are still a board of 7. Any motions do require 4 positive votes to carry. Tonight we also have our zoning board attorney, Bill Hesney, present. Our zoning board secretary, Allison Lovely. We have our stenographer, Donna Moran, present. And we also have, luckily, our director of planning and zoning, Adam Yagelski, as well as our assistant planner, Dahlia Sorowitz, present tonight. So to review why we're here tonight, again, we are picking up a continuation of the applicant application for the area variance, appeal 2020-05. So I'll jump into it a little bit, seeing how we started already on this one. But please take notice, Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of East Greenbush is reconvening a public hearing on August 11, 2020, beginning at 7:30 to consider the following matter. Appeal number 2020-05, the appeal of Collins Homeland LLC of 44 Troy Road, East Greenbush, New York, 12061. The applicant proposes to develop a portion of the required parking in the front yard in the PPB zoning district. The review of the proposed work will not comply with the following provisions of the town zoning law, section 3.1.6, table 3-C, area and bulk schedule, parking not permitted within the front yard. Therefore, the proposed action requires an area variance for the property located at 44 Troy Road, East Greenbush, New York, tax map number 166.8-3-12, pursuant to executive order number 202.1 issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to the COVID-19 virus. The zoning board will reconvene the public hearing remotely through the use of Zoom. With all that on the record, I will reopen appeal number 2020-05, Collins Homeland LLC, where the applicant requested to table the public hearing last time. And I will turn it, Mike, over to you or your representative tonight.
Aaron, you can start.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good evening, members of the board. So where I believe things left off at the previous meeting was a discussion of the amount and configuration of the parking that was being requested in the front yard. Do all of the board members have a revised plan in front of them? If not,
yes.
I can share my screen.
Yep, that was circulated electronically. Allison, do you want to share that site plan? I didn't spring it on you.
Sure. Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me grab it.
And while Allison's doing that, I mean, really, I would just open it up to the board members if there are any questions, or if they wish to have a discussion about it. I mean, I don't necessarily see the need to go through a presentation again. I think everyone's well aware of the request, and we just tried to make some revisions to alleviate some of the concerns. Thank you, Allison.
Aaron, just to clarify, so it's on the record, can you just review the proposed change that you're making as part of this application from last time, just a high level?
Certainly. Yes, the original proposal showed, I believe, 6 spaces in the front yard where the existing horseshoe driveway is currently located. Those spaces were immediately adjacent to the existing structure, and then there was a 24-foot access located behind them. In this revision, we've eliminated about half of the parking that was being proposed, and we've instead configured it where we are using the single curb cut and driveway to provide the access aisle behind the proposed spaces. So this is quite a significant reduction in impervious area that would be located in the front yard. However, it is still parking in the front yard, and therefore we still require the variance that we're here tonight requesting.
Right, thank you. So the proposed design is like 90 degrees. It looks like a residential kind of turnout. Are you still proposing one? It looks like 3 spaces in the front yard. Are you proposing any of those to be dedicated handicap, or are they just general purpose?
Those are general purpose at this time. If at a later date there is a need to provide that ADA parking up front, it would be the conversion of one of those spaces. It would not be an additional 4th space at this time.
Thank you. Members of the board, I'll open it up for questions. I believe you've had a chance to look at the site plan and you know the conditions of that site and the neighboring properties. Aaron, just for clarification, you're proposing to eliminate the rest of the driveway turnaround that was there. Is that correct?
That is correct. While not noted on the plan that you currently have in front of you, if you look closely, you'll see that the driveway is a dashed black line. That is slated for removal. That's correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Jeff, Brian Sipperly joined us. He's the engineer for the applicant. Brian, welcome. I'm trying to unmute you, but I think you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dahlia.
Yep.
I have a question for the applicant or the engineer, actually. When you look at the front yard of what you have as asphalt now with that horseshoe driveway, do you have a comparison of what the square footage is currently asphalt versus what is now the revised proposed in the front?
Sure. You're looking for roughly the reduction of asphalt in the front.
Yeah.
I don't have an exact figure on that. But I can say that it's approximately 500 square feet.
Okay, yeah.
But that would include that includes some impervious area that's located within the right of way as well.
No, it does look like there's less asphalt that will be on there and more green space. So that does answer my question. Thanks.
No problem.
Brian, we were just going over the revised site plan. I believe you're unmuted now.
Yeah, guys, I think for ease of everybody, I'll just let Aaron continue talking. I came from another meeting late, so let's let Aaron continue if you guys don't mind.
Nope, not at all. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman.
Members of the board, any other questions? John Conway?
I'm just wondering if there's any changes to the vegetation on the property, particularly the front yard with the new design.
There's no change between this design and the previous design. We are looking to remove some vegetation that's existing in the front yard, and throughout the planning process, we will be proposing new vegetation. I can't say it's going to be exactly like the previous plan because that was kind of located around the parking area as it was being proposed. So we would revise that to be more fitting of the current proposal.
Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys will, should you secure the area variance, you will work through site plan with planning board, correct?
That is correct, Chairman. Yes.
Thank you. John, anything else?
I have nothing else. Thanks.
You got it. Thank you. Tom Hickey?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Ostagai?
Nope, I'm good, Jeff. Thanks.
All right, great, thank you. With that, I know we do have one member of the public present tonight. Fortunately, we go by your screen name, which is Peck Taryn. But we'll ask, do you have any questions or wish to make any comments on the appeal tonight? Okay. Yes, please do. Great, good comment. Okay, thank you, Adam. I think what we talked about last time was members of the board had concerns over the commercial nature of the last design with 6 parking stalls. It looks like the applicant went back and worked with town staff and came back with a design that kind of fits into the character, in my opinion, of the surrounding driveways with a turnaround provided there. And the only thing in front of us tonight is a request to have front yard parking on this parcel, as it is an allowed use in that zone. So with that, we're just focused on whether or not the front yard parking is consistent with the character of the neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood, as well as meets the intent of the zone. So good comment. Thank you. With that, Brian, I saw your hand. You want to add anything else tonight?
Karen, I was just noting that was my wife and kids watching that Taryn Peck person. I wanted to let the board know. They were like, hey, what's daddy doing? And with Zoom, they get a chance to see. So I just wanted to let you know who that was. Okay, guys?
Excellent. Thank you.
She hung up. She was so scared when you called her name.
Oh, that's too bad.
Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry, we do participation in government usually, although we haven't seen those students in a while. So school season kicks off. This will probably be the way they participate. Don't go back live. So with that, Mike, Aaron, anything else you two wish to add?
No, I'm fine.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I can make that motion, Jeff.
All right, Matt Ostagai made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tom Hickey. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. With that, that will end any of the interaction between the applicant and the board, or the public and the board. We can enter into seeker and then workshop and entertain a motion if we choose tonight. So you guys are welcome to stick around and listen in, or you're also welcome to peel off and give Allison a call tomorrow to see what the outcome was. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I do have a memo. Yes.
Can you take down that thing so I can see everybody better?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. All right, in regards to Appeal 2020-05, Collins Homeland LLC for 44 Troy Road, application for an area variance. The Zoning Board of Appeals has considered this project under seeker and determines that this project meets the requirements for a type 2 action and no further seeker review is required. With that, we can enter into workshop, and I will open up the virtual floor for comments from board members.
I have an internal question for the board, not for the applicant. Was there any communication of any interaction they had with the building department or anybody else in developing the plan, or is this just the final product? Because I didn't see any of those communications.
I believe they were in contact with Dahlia and or Adam within the planning office to come up with what was allowed in that zone, along with the discussion on the character of the surrounding properties, and that's where this plan came from. I think I made it. Thank you, Thomas. Good question. I did make a reference. This plan, again, we are not approving the plan itself. We are approving whether or not to allow parking in the front yard, and then we can condition it. Site plan requirements would go through the planning board should we allow parking in the front yard. So just for clarification on next steps.
No, understood. And I think I have one comment. If you drive up and down there, this is not unlike a large percentage of properties already along that corridor that have turnarounds, that have at least, some at least temporary use of those turnarounds for parking and staging of cars as it is. So I think this very much stays in the character of the existing use of the corridor.
Thank you.
Tom, I'm in agreement with you on that too. In looking at some of the properties there are a lot of folks parked similarly in their residential areas. We also keep in mind we have on that roadway, we have a residential home that has a garage on the front yard, which is far more intrusive than this. And we also have some commercial buildings, and I'm thinking of one off the top of my head. The old Wojcicki building, the CPA building, where parking is in the front between the building and Route 4. That's some thoughts and observations that I saw going up and down Route 4 in the last few weeks.
Thank you, Bob.
Jeff, I won't add anything to what Tom and Bob have said, but I think what they've come back with is a much better compromise. It doesn't feel like a parking lot. It feels more consistent with what we have there right now. So I'm consistently in favor of this as well.
Thank you.
I think my concern with this is I think maybe stems a little bit from my involvement with the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. This is a parcel that's like, as you say, like a lot of parcels. And I think it's going to be an important issue as we move forward with a new comprehensive plan and possibly a new zoning plan. And I was interested to see where we were on this. And we don't really have any recommendations yet in terms of the comprehensive plan. But I went back and I took a look at a survey that we did townwide. It was kind of admittedly not the most scientific survey, but we asked people for responses to various questions. And one of the questions was, where should commercial/retail growth be directed within the town? And we got 480 responses to that. And I would say probably the two most common responses you get are 9 and 20 or 9 and 20 in Route 4. But beyond that, I was interested. There were about 27 responses that specifically focused on Route 4. And I would say 20 of those 27 were negative in terms of commercial development along Route 4. Of the other 7, I think 4 of those were very specific in terms of they wanted development. They were positive. But they want development north in the north section of Route 4. North of the circle, north of, Walmart, or however they described it, 3rd Avenue extension, but up in that area. So I just think that we should be very careful here in terms of the development of this section of Route 4. Many of the properties still are residential and want to maintain that residential characteristic. And I don't see that changing. This is my personal opinion. I don't see that changing in the new comprehensive plan or zoning law. So I appreciate the fact that the applicants did come back with a much better design, and the fact that they are willing to go back through the board. But for me, it's still a matter of really maintaining the character of the neighborhood along Route 4, this section of Route 4.
Thank you, John. I agree with you also. I think one of my original concerns with the first submission was how commercial that parking lot, I think I personally referred to it as a parking lot in the front yard. I think this revised plan blends in with the surrounding properties that are residential in nature. There is some home occupations along that stretch I know of in a couple of those homes. And almost every one of those properties along this stretch of Route 4 in the PPB zone specifically has parking in the front yard. I suspect the majority of them are unpermitted or pre-existing non-conforming, but the vast majority of those properties, because of the traffic volumes on Route 4, because it doesn't have a two-way left turn lane in the middle, the high volumes, that it's a safety concern also to be able to have this turnaround. I'm not necessarily a fan of parking in the front yard when it comes to parking lots, but I think this is a good safety balance to provide access to this property. And I believe by dropping the extra 3 spaces, it also at this time keeps it within the number of parking spaces that fits within the PPB zone that property already is. So it's designed to be professional, personal businesses in those properties. And that's what this project is. And, the applicant's done a nice job keeping the character of that house too, which fits into the surrounding properties. So, I do commend the balance of the approach. So.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you have one other comment from is that I think it's a significant upgrade of the existing condition there. Yeah. With the stone driveway that they frankly probably, if they made an effort, could have parked significantly more than 3 cars with any efforts without having gone for this change and trying to upgrade the appearance of it. So I think not only does it fit in with the appearance of a large part of the corridor there, and I also think it's an upgrade from its existing condition.
It's a great point because the new plan goes from 3 curb cuts on Route 4 down to only 1 driveway curb cut, which will have to go through DOT permitting. And I also believe, John, although it didn't have the landscaping design hammered out yet, as the last one did, as the applicant mentioned, I do believe it creates a large increase in green space, as Bob Seward had asked, in that front yard. Approximately 500 square foot of reduced pavement in the front yard of this property is a big step in the right direction on this one. So, I think the turnaround blends with the surrounding properties and is probably a better fit than what was there existing. But again, I do appreciate it and share the concerns about that corridor, at least from, we'll say the commons down to Mill Creek, not becoming commercial properties, but staying residential, planned professional business or whatever can fit in there. So with that, any other comments from board members? All right, hearing none. Yeah. All right, I think we have closed the public hearing, Adam. So, but you feel free to read it. We won't respond to it because the public hearing is closed, but I will entertain it as part of the workshop.
It's the next discussion.
Okay. Yeah, next discussion item. So good. But no, thank you. So we'll come around. We'll come back to that part of the next agenda item then. So thank you. With that, I will make a motion in the matter by Collins Homeland LLC for an area variance. Resolution and final decision of Board of Appeals, appeal number 2020-05. Whereas an application has been filed by Collins Homeland LLC of 44 Troy Road, East Greenbush, New York, 12061. The applicant proposes to develop a portion of the required parking in the front yard in the PPB zoning district. The review of the proposed work will not comply with the following provisions of the town zoning law. Section 3, 3.1.6, Table 3-C, Area and Bulk Schedule, parking not permitted within the front yard. And whereas the applicant has filed an application requesting an area variance at the property located at 44 Troy Road, East Greenbush, New York, tax map number 166.8-3-12. And whereas the Board of Appeals has duly published a notice of public hearing regarding this appeal in the record on July 3rd, 2020. And whereas notice of the public hearing was provided by certified mail to the owners of all property within 200 feet of the land involved in the application, to the Town Planning Board and to the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning. And whereas a public hearing was held by the Board of Appeals on Tuesday, July 14, 2020, and reconvened on Tuesday, August 11, 2020, to consider this appeal. And whereas the Planning Board of the Town of East Greenbush at its July 8, 2020 meeting provided a report of the requested area variance with a recommendation. And whereas at this hearing, the applicant, as well as any and all persons interested in this appeal, were heard, their statements recorded, and various written material, including exhibits, if any, were entered into the record. And whereas all statements, written material, and exhibits submitted in connection with said appeal have been carefully considered. And whereas this appeal has met all the requirements of the seeker and the teaker, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. There will not be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as the proposed 3-vehicle turnaround style parking lot is consistent with neighboring properties and fits the character of the existing parcels. 2, there is no other method available to the applicant, as the building has 2 stories and this parking is necessary to access the first floor of the building. Requested variance is substantial. However, it is a reduction in overall use of the front yard, a reduction in number of driveways to Route 4, and is actually a safety improvement over existing conditions. 4, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood, as the turnaround style 3-car parking lot is consistent with neighboring properties. 5, the alleged difficulty is self-created. However, thou shalt not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Resolved that the application for an area variance for parking in the front yard be granted with one condition, that the applicant coordinate with the planning board on appropriate landscape design around the parking area. This resolution was moved by Jeff Pangburn and seconded by?
I'll second.
Hickey, thank you. At a meeting duly held on August 11, 2020. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. A vote was taken as follows. John Conway.
I vote no.
Matt Ostagai.
Yes.
Tom Hickey.
Yes.
Jeff Pangburn, yes. Bob Seward III.
Yes.
And Scott Stravell, absent. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you all. All right. That includes that appeal. You guys are welcome to coordinate with Allison on the appeal or start progressing with site plan review as your schedule allows. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Mike. All right, moving down the agenda, we have old business, which is consideration of a settlement of an Article 78. What do you call that? Is that called a lawsuit, Bill? Article 78
Yes.
lawsuit? Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
On Appeal 2019-12, which is Schlegel 103 Columbia Turnpike. For context, just so the members understand, town attorney Dave Gruenberg worked with the Association of Towns to clarify that the Zoning Board of Appeals, because we were named in the lawsuit, we should provide a consent if we agree to the settlement to the town board before the town board votes whether or not to ratify the appropriate word, Bill, to approve the official settlement of the lawsuit. But they shouldn't do that without our consent on the terms in the settlement. So this settlement went back and forth for quite a while between Bill Hesney, Adam Yagelski, and the applicant's attorney. It's escaping me, Bill.
Vince Campanero.
Vince Campanero, thank you. Went back and forth a handful of times. We pulled in the appropriate town people. The town departments agreed with the zoning board in that the applicant does have access to Catskill Avenue. Yep, thank you. Out the back of the property. So that back parcel, which is all that the appeal actually applied to, was that back parcel. They do have access to Catskill Ave, as we stated. So therefore, that parcel and the use variance was likely to not succeed in their Article 78 lawsuit. But as part of not bringing that to trial, the applicant requested they also be able to maintain a pre-existing non-conforming status of their automotive repair garage with the condition from town planning staff that it at least go through a site plan review, an unofficial site plan review, and they submit an official site plan as part of the settlement. So there was quite a bit of back and forth on that. They agreed, they submitted a site plan, which Adam coordinated with them, the planning board coordinated with them, the planning board agrees to what they submitted, as does the building department. And that has become part of the settlement in order to save the town time, money, and effort of going through a potential trial and potentially winning or losing the lawsuit. The Zoning Board of Appeals has stated on several times, or at least I have on behalf of the Zoning Board, I should say, we are not privy to that site plan. We didn't want to deal with 103 Columbia Turnpike. We were only concerned about the driveway access and the use variance on the rear parcel. The attorneys agreed. The Zoning Board was correct. But as part of that front site plan on 103 Columbia Turnpike got tacked on as part of the settlement, and planning staff, we've deferred to planning staff and building staff to be comfortable with that, and we believe they are. So my recommendation shortly will be that we do consent for the town board to enter into this settlement, because the zoning board is basically correct. And so it's no change in the rear parcel.
And Jeff, just to clarify one point.
Yep.
The non-conforming use
Yes.
of the front parcel is for automotive service and repair only. It's not for auto sales.
Thank you. And that goes to that question that Adam read on the chat. So thank you very much. So yes, he originally was looking to use both parcels for automotive sales. That is not part of this settlement.
Correct.
Thank you. Questions from any of the zoning members?
Well, this struck me as kind of an odd sort of thing. I mean, I'm not used to seeing this stuff. Maybe it happens a lot, but if I understand it correctly, they are basically agreeing to withdraw their application for which they were going to sue us because we denied it. Is that?
Well, they did initiate a lawsuit. It's in the form of what we call an Article 78. And that's just a specialized type of litigation where when somebody's unhappy with what a public board decides, there's a certain time frame for them to file a lawsuit to put the matter before a judge and make an argument to a Supreme Court judge to say that board was wrong and I want you to reverse, modify the order of that board. And that's what they did. They were not happy even though, as Jeff explained, they were pretty much wrong on all points. The biggest issue was the fact that what they were seeking to do was based on their misunderstanding that they no longer had access to Catskill Avenue. And that we demonstrated was wrong.
But
So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
well, I was going to say, but the settlement doesn't seem to address their original concern or their original application whatsoever, right?
Well, basically, the sum and substance of this settlement is that the application that they made for a use variance is basically gone. It's like it's withdrawn.
Yeah.
Okay. So they don't get us to reverse our decision with respect to the use variance. Okay, that was denied. They're not getting a use variance now. They have access, as they've always had, to Catskill Avenue. They just have to put in a driveway if they want to, and obviously within the code requirements and town requirements. But they're allowed to use the front parcel, which they had been using for quite some time for auto sales and repair. So they're just allowed to continue to do what they had been doing. That's the sum and substance of the settlement. And
Bill, just
go
for
ahead.
clarification, continue to use it for automotive repair, not sales. You had mentioned sales, but
I apologize. I'm sorry. You're right. Repair and
service and repair.
Service and repair. Yeah.
So in reading this bill, the way that I understand it, what this document actually does, it extends the 1-year period for non-conforming use and puts it out a year from today, as opposed to stating that they've already exceeded their non-conforming use time period.
Right, because the 1-year time period with the non-conforming prior use sort of elapsed during the middle of all these proceedings. So,
okay, so they're extending that out. And then my next question on this, and I'm not sure it's necessary, but it doesn't necessarily reference the removal of the action or restrict any future action similar to that against the board or the town, for that matter.
well, no, once this settlement is agreed to by the parties and so ordered by the court, the lawsuit is gone. Their time to file a lawsuit about the denial of the request for a use variance on the rear parcel is gone. So it's time barred. They can't raise it again.
Yeah, so I guess my question is on that. If they were to reapply for a use variance on that back property, first of all, can they? And then secondly, if they did, could that be addressed in the document that they would give up rights to appeals on that?
Actually, we have procedures within the comprehensive zoning law to rehear an appeal. So they could apply to the zoning board. It would take a supermajority vote, I believe, or a unanimous vote, I forget which, of the board members to agree to rehear it. But otherwise, they have no right to reapply for the same exact use variance. So no, so they can't, essentially they can't reapply for it.
So, but that's my question to Bill is if it's not addressed in this document, I'm used to doing these documents kind of covering yourself, kind of, belts and suspenders on these and restrict any future actions by rule that could be prevented unless there was a supermajority and, the document's already complete, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask it. Was that considered in this settlement to restrict any future actions?
Well, again, it's in these type of matters, you don't typically have in the document that you can never sue again. If that's sort of like your question, because then you're restricting somebody's rights in the future. Obviously, there's already been a decision. It's going to be so ordered by a judge. The bar that they would have to get over to try to go beyond that and try to argue again the same issue would be, in my opinion, almost unbeatable. There's, it's just, and they'd be crazy to do it. And again, remember that the basis for the argument of a right for use variance for the rear parcel was based on the fact that they claimed they didn't have access because Catskill Avenue had moved. Part of the stipulation is where they acknowledge the fact that they have access to Catskill Avenue. So that removes that basis for the claim that they had for a use variance. So that is addressed in the documents.
Yep. I had many of the same concerns as Tom had with that, but I noted that in the I think it's the third provision there that it specifically says that they cannot combine the two properties.
Correct.
Yeah. So once they agree to that, I don't know how they would argue again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, in my mind, the town is really not giving up much of anything.
Well, but to build
except for the, I'm sorry?
To that prior point on John's, just to clarify so understand it, we don't restrict them, on the language on that is we only restrict them to provide access to the front parcel. It doesn't mean that they can't be combined in any way. The language just says that they can't be, you understand, with the understanding that such access cannot be combined to provide access. The argument could be different than that is my only point on that.
Right. And the rear parcel has access to Catskill Avenue. So, and all parties have stipulated and agreed to that. Or will once this is signed.
Understood.
Matt, any questions from you guys?
None for me.
Nope, I'm good, John. Good, Jeff.
Thanks. John, Tom, you guys good? You guys have anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, and Jeff, I should make one other point. I believe that a site plan has already been submitted and proposed by the Schlegel and his attorney.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that in my rambling early on. He submitted a site plan which went back and forth with planning and building department and planning board and has been agreed upon on the town side that they're comfortable with what he's showing on a site plan. So we don't wind up with like the Michael's Auto Group thing where nobody agreed upon what the site plan was supposed to be. This is a detailed and documented site plan so everybody agrees what can be used on that parcel and where and how it's to look.
And that's all being done prior to all those steps were taken prior to the settlement being
correct,
finalized, signed, and agreed to.
Correct. That approved site plan is part of this settlement. It's right. Not to be done. It is already done. Town staff agrees with what is being proposed. The applicant's comfortable with what he's being allowed to do on his parcel and what he needs to do to get it into shape. And that is all part of this settlement.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Bill, I sent you some just rough language. I know it was last second. Yeah. Yeah, sure thing. Adam, I think you're probably best to be able to address that from a planning standpoint. factors were put into that site plan review between your office, the building department, and the planning board? And Adam, I'll just piggyback onto that. The fact that 103 Columbia Turnpike is a pre-existing non-conforming use. So essentially it's a reuse of what was already allowed on that property. It's not a change of use. It's not an expansion of the use, which isn't allowed in the code either. So they're reusing the property for what it is allowed to be used at. So the town is handcuffed a little bit of how far they can take any changes to that parcel. But it is pre-existing non-conforming, and I think that's why they wanted that extension put into the settlement, Tom, that you referred to, that they just wanted to make sure that they were still able to reuse it for that existing use, even though they were trying to change it. And that's where that came in, and that's where the town staff was astute enough to require them to submit a site plan, and as you just mentioned, get those things written onto a site plan to help code enforcement going forward. So thank you. Bill, with that that language, you believe that's adequate? Is it too much?
No, it's fine. It's short and sweet.
All right. That's the way I like it. I paraphrased some of what came out of the Association of the Towns Attorney too for guidance, which is the first paragraph. But here's the motion I would like to make. Whereas town law, section 68, subsection 4, provides, notwithstanding the foregoing provisions of this section, the town board of any town may compromise or settle any action, proceeding, or claim against the town upon such terms as said board shall determine are just, reasonable, and to the interest of the town. And whereas the Article 78 involved a use variance and the ZBA is a named party, and whereas the ZBA is in agreement with the proposed settlement as negotiated between the town and the claimant, now therefore resolved that the Board of Appeals consents to the town board entering into said settlement. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Was that Tom?
Matt,
Bob.
Bob, thank you. Motion by Jeff Pangburn, second by Bob Stewart III. Any discussion of the motion?
Should we, what I'm was thinking, should we say anything about not assuming any guilt since we were being sued? Or does that just go without saying?
Good question, John. I thought about it, but it's described in the settlement. It's clarified in the settlement, so I didn't think the motion was necessary. Do you agree, Bill?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I will do a 1 second. I'll do a roll call vote. Yes is a consent to have the town board enter into the settlement. John Conway.
Yes.
Matt Ostagai.
Yes.
Tom Hickey.
Yes.
Jeff Pangburn's a yes. Bob Stewart III.
Yes.
Thank you. Scott Stravell is absent, and we have one vacancy, so the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right. With that, next meeting would have been August 25th, 2020. That will be canceled for lack of agenda items. We have approval of minutes, July 14th, 2020. That's everybody, correct, Allison?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
John Conway. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tom. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Allison just filled me in today. We have 4 new applications actually just came in. So we're going to queue 2 of them up for the first meeting in September. And here is a heads up. The second Tuesday of September comes quickly and is the day after Labor Day. So anybody who has travel plans or something else, please let me know. But just be aware it's the day after Labor Day, September 8th this year is our next meeting. And looks like 2 applications, and then the following meeting 2 weeks after that, which appears 22nd, if my math is right.
Yep.
2 more. Any discussion from members of the board? All right, hear none. I think we're good. I'll make a motion to close the meeting tonight. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I think everybody seconded it. Your pick, Donna.
I got Bob.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Matt, enjoy your time away.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. Take care.